Good morning. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP Bangladesh. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP Bangladesh. Thank you all for joining us and staying with us till the end. Honorable Knowledge Seeker, today I am your host for the morning. My name is Badhun Dash. I am from Bangladesh. Dear Knowledge Seeker, I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. IGP is a social and ISO certified international training institute. In 3 years, we already served 3 million plus knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP is internationally recognized and globally accredited. We are connected to more than 250 plus profession and 4,500 plus organizations. Institute of Global Professional IGP is the training faculty for skill development which was found in 2020 and is generating competent candidates to meet demand in the global labor market by providing professional qualifications. The Institute of Global Professional is an education institute that provides social work globally recognized and reputable. We serve student and community research providing holistic social work and education. We believe that it's not effective to increase one skill just by acquiring formal education, so we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generation all over the world. We distribute our services locally, nationally, and internationally to student job seeker, job holder, and also for learners, though respective campus locations and distance. Learning platform. We are an occupational and dependable institute. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is not a business product, it's a part of our human rights. Based on our vision, we are trying to reach all corners of the world for free webinars, seminar, courses, award, quiz competition, mentoring, and counseling, etc. On the other side, we are also trying to serve more than 100 premium services for free, like create own portfolio website, resume builder, cover letter, motivation letter, and wall knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge, which can upgrade all day. Kids learning game, website free courses, convert sites, and many, many more. We help to empower youth to learn to meet their expectation and dream and become highly skilled people. We implement several training program webinar and offline online courses for youth and learners by professional trainer, speaker, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals to develop all kind of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personalities. To ensure excellent and in-depth instruction, we arrange with qualified trainer, speaker, and instructor. We extended our free services to more than 3 million knowledge seekers in last 3 years. We have affiliation with universities and organizations in 70 different countries. Virtual mock signing with many colleges and organizations have been accomplished. We are working to create a legendary generation of future scholars and citizens who will be accountable. We are constantly prepared to assist all knowledge seekers with valuable services. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the Institute of Global Professionals. We believe that knowledge is love and light and vision. So we try to understand the needs of today's generation and we serve them with good research and practice methods. We must have a genuine concern for the learners we represent. More diversity, growth, and innovation are required to lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity. IGP members are committed to offering effective, best quality service and continual improvement so that individuals who seek information can improve their skill level and value. Before we move to the next, let me remind don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend. in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Before we move to the next, let me remind, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we already completed 1,233 webinars successfully. Wow. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we already completed 1,233 webinars successfully. Wow. At present, we are going to start our 1,234 program name is Importance of Muscle Hypertrophy for Better Sporting Outcomes. And our today's speaker name is Sir Dr. Kishore Mukhopadhyay. Before I hand over the stage to Sir, I want to share a very little bit about our speaker. Assistant Professor in Physical Education, Union Christian Training College, Baharampur, Murshidabad, West Bengal. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with his presentation. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with his presentation. Hello, sir. Good morning. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. May I audible, madam?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Can I start now?
Yes, sir. You can start your presentation.
So, good morning, everybody. Respected all the faculties and dignitaries of Global Professional Institution and my learned friends who are present over here through this virtual mode. I express my sincere thanks and gratitude to Global Professional Institution for providing me the opportunity to deliver my presentation over here. Today, I am going to deliver regarding muscle hypertrophy. Last 2 3 years there are good number of conferences took place, and there are very few areas on muscle hypertrophy was discussed over there. So in that context, it is a new area so far as conferences are concerned. Actually, muscle hypertrophy is related with general growth and development, cancer care, immunity, tissue repairment, and sports purpose. So my topic of deliberation is importance of muscle hypertrophy for better sporting outcomes. The organizers has given me 1 hour time to discuss this topic. I think it is a tough job for me to complete the topic within 1 hour. So let's start today's journey. Today my agenda, I have divided my topic into 5 heads. That is the homeostasis and stress, then adaptation, then little bit of concept about muscle physiology, then muscle hypertrophy and training for hypertrophy. So what is homeostasis? A condition in which the internal environment of the body remain relatively constant despite changes in the external environment. That means it is the consistency of our internal environment when the man in resting condition. When we are in resting condition, our all the systems are functioning harmoniously and making a balance or equilibrium within our body. This is termed as homeostasis. It is come from the Latin word homeos, that means similar, and stasis, that means standing still. Now, this mechanism of homeostasis is dependent upon two factors. First one is the feedback factor, and second one is the feed forward factor. What is this? In human body, the kind of feedback loop acts to resist or reserve the process when conditions go outside out of the range, body temperature, blood pressure, etc. When our body temperature is increases, hypothalamus sends the signal to for perspiration of the muscles and through the skins, and we are losing the latent heat, and our body will remain in cooling state. So this is a negative example of the negative feedback mechanism. There is also a positive feedback mechanism. Say for example, blood coagulation is an example of the positive feedback mechanism. There are one more mechanism is there, that is feed forward mechanism. Feed forward regulation anticipates changes in the regulated variables such as internal body temperature, improves the speed of the body's homeostatic responses, and minimizes fluctuations in the level of variables being regulated. When you are asked to jump in a cold water in the winter season, before jump entering in the water, what is will be the your body physiological condition of your body? That is depend upon your feed forward mechanism. We are trying to adjust our physiological condition so that at the time of entering body we may not face any kind of difficulties. So this is the feed forward mechanism. And one mechanism is most important mechanism is the feedback mechanism, that is after at the time of onset of the stressor, and feed forward mechanism before the onset of the stressor. And these feedback mechanisms are of two types, negative and positive. Now, exercise and homeostasis. Why I am discussing about the homeostasis? During exercise, body goes through a lot of processes such as sweating, breathing heavily, and moving muscles and joints. These processes are all signs that body is hard to work maintaining homeostasis, also known as body's equilibrium. Sustaining homeostasis is important for regulating your body's internal balance so that all of your organs and cells functions properly. There are inbuilt in mechanism that body uses to buffer the changes in the internal system so one can maintain homeostasis. Adaptive homeostasis is what happens during exercise because of our heart rate, blood pressure, cardiac output, respiratory rate adjust to the intensity of our workout. Exercise stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and will induce an integrated response to the body. These responses work to maintain an appropriate level of homeostasis for the increased demand of physical, metabolic, respiratory, and cardiovascular effect. Now, what is stress? In the year 2006, Pander and Partner defined stress is a condition in which human system responds to change in its normal balance state. Stress results from a change of environment that is prescribed precised as challenge, a threat, or a danger, and can have both positive and negative effect. That means any kind of external stimulus which upsets our internal consistency is termed as stress, and the agent is termed as stressor. Stressor themselves neither positive nor negative, but they can have positive or negative effect as the person respond to the challenges. What happened? What happened when stress arises within our body? When you experience a stressful event, your brain sends a signal through your autonomic nervous system, telling your body to stay and deal with the stressful situation. That means fight, or run away. That means flight. So fight and flight responses is there when stress onset to our organism within our body. The sympathetic nervous system, which is one of the two divisions of the autonomic nervous system, triggered the fight or flight responses, provided the body with a burst of energy so that it can respond to perceived dangers. On the other hand, of your autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system is there, promotes the rest and digest response that claim the body down after the danger has been passed. So two response. First one given by the sympathetic response, which elevate the blood flow, increase the rate of respiration, increase the glucose level within the body with the help of the sympathetic nervous activation. And after the when the stressor disappears, it is the it is the duty of the parasympathetic nervous system to remain in the normal, to remain the physiological system as earlier. That means it's the normal level. Now, what is adaptation? Ronald A. Fisher emphasized in the year 1930, adaptation is characterized by the movement of a population towards a phenotype that best fit the present environment. In case of sports and games, adaptation is defined as the adjustment of physical and psychological functional systems to the training load. Adaptation to a load result in the enhancement of performance capacity. If we want to increase our physical performance capacity, we have to adapt the load, which is overload now. After a scientific graded training program, it will be normal load after a few months. So why this is so? Because our physiological systems work in an elevated level and we are able to adapt that particular type of load. So adaptation is physiological gain will occur only with regular exercise. Adaptation depends on challenging the physical capabilities beyond a minimum threshold level. That means you have to deal with the overload for a relatively larger period of time in order to adapt that particular type of load. The two concept is there. One is the stressor and other one is the resources. Stressors is workload and resource is the scoping style. When a person faces any kind of stressors, the possible reactions will be the physiological, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. So stress are upset in these areas. In physiological area, vulnerability of illness, exhaustion may be there. In behavioral, increased activity, self-destructive behavior may be there. Emotional level, burnout, cognitive level, narrowing of perception or rigidity may be there. So this is the effect of consequence of stress and adaptation process. Now, oh, the process of adaptation to a particular stress is described by Hansel in the year 1950, and he coined the term general adaptation syndrome. He empirically discovered the biological three-stage general reaction to external stresses agent, which he called the stressor. These reaction, a chain of reaction in the body, is general in nature. This is not specific to the stressor. He therefore called it as a general adaptation syndrome or GAS and extended it to humans and all other biological entities. The general adaptation syndrome provides a mechanistic model to understand the relationship between stress, adaptation, and fatigue. GAS describes a three-stage reaction of stress. First one, initial or alarm reaction, resistance or adaptation of coping, and then eventual exhaustion. And these three stages further subdivided into four categories I am discussing over here. In general adaptation syndrome consists three stage illustrating the body's general responses to stress. Claim the body first appears, prepares for action and defense. If necessary, resist, and then it returns to the normal position. So when any kind of stress is set within our body, the alarm reaction starts. And after that, we want to try to resist that stress. We want to coping the stress. And if we are able to cope the stress, then it is good one. And when we are not being able to cope with the stress, then it is the stage of exhaustion. So this is the three-stage model. In the graph, you can see this is the baseline or homeostatic line. When internal or external stimulus sets in, then it is start for the alarming stage. Then when any kind of physical exercise, which is termed as a stressor, upsets our internal consistency, then fatigue is the result. And this fatigue stage is termed as the alarm stage. And after that, after certain period of time, when we stop the exercise, then it is the term of resistance phase or adaptation phase. We are able to adapt the fatigue. We are able to recover from the fatigue stage, and after that, we have come to the baseline or homeostatic line. And after certain period, this performance capacity or will increase to our more than that of our homeostatic level, and this is termed as the super compensation. When we are able to adapt the load, our performance capacity will increase a little bit from that of our basal level. This stage is termed as super compensation and overcompensation. This is an important aspect in sports training. And after that, it is again come to the baseline, and then it is the stage of exhaustion. If we are not uh, performing any kind of task in a regular manner, then our this increment or super compensation factor will disappear. So this is a matter of regular practice for adapting any kind of training load. Now, adaptation of stress. First one is the alarm reaction. Second one is the fight or flight stage. Third one is the exhaustion stage, and fourth one is the normal stage. The body begins to the perceive and be aware of stress. The sympathetic nervous system prepare the body to fight or flight. That is the stage after alarm reaction. Then the body becomes exhausted by its response to the stress, and then the parasympathetic nervous system is activated and the body return to the normal stage. So this is the four stage cycle. Now, what will be the training sequence of training? When we are thinking for elevating the sports performance, there must be some sort of sequence. When that's when we increasing the external stimulus in the form of load, our adaptation sets in, and in a regular maintaining this adaptation process, the performance capacity will increase. When the stimulation lack of, there will be a lack in the stimulation, that is the load. When the load is in below normal or near normal, the plateau is the result and lack of improvement. Excessive stimulus, that means excessive overload, maladaptation is the result, and requires adaptation and recovery stage, physical recovery stage,
Dear participant, please wait for few minutes. Our speaker will rejoin with us for some technical issue. He disconnected. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Madam, my skin is visible. Hello, madam, my skin is visible.
Yes, sir. Your skin is visible. You can continue your
Shall I proceed?
presentation.
Okay, shall I proceed? Acha. Then, actually, I am discussing about the types of hypertrophy. Actually, three types of hypertrophy are there. Muscle immediately following exercise. That means it is a temporary effect, and we are more concerned about the sarcoplasmic and myofibrillar hypertrophy. In case of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, increase in the volume of the sarcoplasmic fluid within the muscle cell, with no accompanying increase in the muscle strength. And in case of myofibrillar hypertrophy, increase in the strength of the contractile portion, that means protein, that means actin and myosin, contributing to the force produced capability, production capabilities of the muscle, that is functional hypertrophy. Three figures are shown here. First one is the bodybuilding type of activity. This is based on the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and strength type of activity performance. Last one is the result of myofibrillar hypertrophy, and first one is the example of transient hypertrophy. In case of myofibrillar hypertrophy, d- denser and stronger muscle. The muscles are dense and strong, so that more power type activity they are able to perform in efficiently. And in case of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy means the blotted and soft, useless muscles. The structurally robust, but the strength component of that particular type of muscle is not shown in comparison to the myofibrillar hypertrophy counterpart. These two figures are shown there over there. Here the example of this type of muscle cell. In case of normal cell, these are the first one is the four normal muscle cell or muscle fiber shown over here, and the second was the hypertrophy muscle fiber. There, these are the larger in size. Nuclear protein is more here, and third one is the hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is not so common in terms of human body. Actually, hyperplasia is the energy deficiency where the number of muscle fiber remain constant. Hyperplasia is something different where the number of muscle fiber is increased. It is not so common in human being. And now we have to discuss about the energy cycle. Actually, in human body, bioenergetics operating, and they are giving us the energy for performing any kind of activity. To perform any kind of type of activity, energy is prerequisite. We can get energy from ATP stored within our muscle cell. This is an one concept, and it will give us energy up to 2 seconds. But there are three systems as well. First one is the ATP-PC system, adenosine triphosphate and creatine phosphate system. Creatine phosphate breaks down into phosphate, inorganic phosphate, and creatine. And adenosine diphosphate take up this inorganic phosphate and make up adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate is highly chemical compound, energy liberating chemical compound. They are going to give us energy for performing any particular type of activity. This is energy ATP-PC system, and the duration of for getting this ATP-PC system is near when we are performing a high intensity workout, less than 10 seconds. That time a good number of a good amount of energy is required, and this ATP system gives us the energy adequate to perform the task. This is an aspect, and the second aspect is lactic acid system that is based on the glucose. When we are performing any kind of activity vigorously with high intensity and the duration is not so much, that time we require a large amount of oxygen. But our physical demand is high, but the supply of oxygen is less. So that time is glucose is break down into lactic acid and ATP is formed. And these ATP we are using for to complete or performing that particular type of task or to tackle that particular type of training load. So ATP store is on one aspect, and ATP-PC system is an anaerobic aspect, and lactic acid system, which is also an anaerobic aspect because oxygen is not utilized over here. But when we are performing any kind of task for a relatively longer period of time, in a submaximal level, that time a large amount of energy is required. That time glucose is breaks down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And how it is formed, the glucose is break down with the help of oxygen into pyruvic acid, and this entered in the mitochondria of the muscle cell, and through the TCA cycle and electron transport system we are getting enough amount of energy, enough amount of ATP, so that we are able to perform that task for a longer duration of time. This system is termed as aerobic system. So aerobic system is there, lactic acid system is there, ATP-PC system, all the systems is there in all in human being. And our overall performance is depend upon this ATP-PC system, lactic acid system, aerobic system, and ATP stored within the muscle. This is the overall performance is depend upon these bioenergetics. Now, in some cases, it is some type of muscle fiber playing a predominant role to getting energy from ATP-PC system. Some type of muscle fiber playing a major role to get up the energy from lactic acid system, and other type of muscle fiber getting playing a major role to get the maximum amount of energy from the aerobic system. So depending upon the bioenergetic muscle fiber types are of muscle fibers are divided into several types. There are 30 types of muscle fibers are present in human body, but we are discuss here three types of muscle fibers. First one, type 1 muscle fiber, slow twist muscle fiber, long distance endurance type, less fatigue muscle fiber is that. That means in that type of muscle fiber, the proportionate of energy liberation is more from aerobic process. And there are one more type of muscle fiber that is slow fast twist muscle fiber. Fast twist muscle fiber also divided into two categories: fast twist A and fast twist B. Muscle fiber. This fast twitch muscle fiber is oxidative, moderate in distance and intensities, moderate fatigue resistance. Capacities are there. Strength type, speed type activity performance are depend upon that particular type of muscle, are falling by that, at that particular type of muscle fiber. And lactic acid system plays a major role to give the energy for performing that particular type of task. And there is one more type of muscle fiber, that is glycolytic, short distance, high intensity activity, speed type activity plus explosive strength type activity performance are depending upon these system. Power lifter, shot putter, they are generally from their muscle fiber are much more. Those who are performing better international level, they are this type of muscle fiber composition is more in comparison to type 1 muscle fiber. So these are the muscle fiber types. Now we are going to the scientific principle of muscle hypertrophy. So far as what we have learned what is homeostasis, what are the stressor, how the stressors are upset the homeostatic condition, and what is the process of adaptation. Cell is hence cell is general adaptation syndrome. Then we have discussed the uh, adaptation process. Then we have discussed the some sort of idea on muscle physiology and bioenergetics. And last of all, we have discussed about the hypertrophy concept of hypertrophy. Then how hypertrophy how occurs. This is a major issue and major important aspect. In scientific, what are the scientific principles behind this muscle hypertrophy? Actually, there are three main hypertrophic factors. These factors are mechanical tension, nutritional, and hormonal regulations. These three factors plays a major role for muscle hypertrophy. Nutritional factors means when we are taking the essential nutrient through our food, through our diet. If there is lacking in the essential nutrient, we are not being able to produce enough branch chain amino acid, leucine, isoleucine, and so and like that, and we are unable to produce enough amount of muscle synthesis within our muscle protein synthesis within our cell. So this is an important aspect. We have to take essential protein through the dietary supplement. Then mechanical tension, there is tension and stretch, mechanical action, that means tension and stretch. This is also related with hormones also, and other factors, that is hormonal factors are there. The anabolic factors are working over there to playing a major role for muscle hypertrophy. So these are the three factors, and there are five main hypertrophic stimuli. What are these stimuli? First one is the nutritional aspect, which I have just discussed. Then metabolic stress, anabolic hormone, mechanical tension, and muscle damage. These are the five main hypertrophic stimulus. There are two main hypertrophic mechanisms. Two main mechanisms are there, that is satellite cell proliferation and mTOR pathway activation. I will discuss one by one. Now, five hypertrophic stimuli. What are these stimuli? Nutrition. Branch chain amino acid, that is leucine, isoleucine, valine, we have to take from the outside source. Our body is unable to produce this essential new amino acid. So we have to take this essential amino acid through the food stuff. And the lacking of this essential amino acid may create problem within our body normal growth and functioning is hampered, and we are unable to build any kind of sport strength type or physical performance in a greater way. Then metabolic stress is a physiological process that occurs during exercise in response to low energy that leads to metabolic accumulation. That means lactate, phosphate, inorganic phosphate, ions of hydrogen in the muscle. How lactate is formed? When we are not getting enough amount of oxygen and anaerobic glycolysis takes place within the sarcoplasm, that times lactic acid form. And when we are getting enough amount of oxygen, that time aerobic glycolysis takes place in the sarcoplasm, and we will get carbon dioxide and water. And when uh, creatine phosphate breakdowns, it create phosphate, inorganic phosphate and creatine. This is all the metabolites, and these are formed through the process of metabolism. When these processes are activated, a huge amount of stress is placed on the sarcoplasm. As a result of that, this lactate has a great affinity of water, and the extracellular water is entered in the sarcoplasm, and sarcoplasm is bigger and thicker. This is one aspect. Then the key anabolic hormones and the growth hormones, insulin like growth factor, insulin, testosterone, and its analogs. Although each has specific metabolic reactions, there is also very important hormone interaction. These hormones are has specific, but they are, when they are working together, they has some sort of interaction as well. Then mechanically dependent tension produced both by force generation and stretch is considered essential to muscle growth. And the combination of these stimuli appears to have a pronounced addictive effect. Mechanically induced tension is able to create the anabolic hormone and to function the anabolic hormone in a greater extent. So all these aspects are interlinked to each other. All these aspects plays a major role for muscle hypertrophy. And one more important aspect is there, that is muscle damage, localized damage or microtrauma of the contractile protein. That is an important aspect, and all the sports scientists and coaches, they are thinking for the microtrauma within the muscle cell so that hypertrophy may result. I will discuss later on in this area also. First of all, hypertrophic mechanism. I am discussing two, divided it in two heads, that is satellite cell proliferation and mTOR pathway. What is satellite cell proliferation? The figure, here shown the satellite cell present in the human muscle fiber. Adult muscle satellite cell make fuse to turn on damage existing cell to assist repair. If there is any kind of repairment is there, if there is any kind of muscle damage, then these satellite cell plays a major role to assist the repairment to control the damage. And the second issue is hypertrophy. These two areas, the function of satellite cell is very, very, very important. These cells are termed satellite cell because they are located on the outer surface of the muscle fiber in between sarcolemma and basal lamellae. That means uppermost layer of the basement membrane of the muscle fiber. Satellite cells have one nuclei with constitute most of the cell volume. That means the size of the nucleus is much more in case of satellite cell. Usually these cells are dormant, but they become activated when the muscle fiber receives any form of trauma, damage, or injury, such as from resistive straining overload. The satellite cells then proliferate or multiply. The daughter cells are drawn to the damaged muscle site. They then fuse to existing muscle fiber, donating their nucleus to the fiber with the help of the regeneration of muscle fiber. The amount of satellite cell present within the muscle fiber depends on the type of muscle. Type 1 or slow twist muscle oxidative fiber tend to have a 5 to 6 times greater satellite cell content than type 2 muscle fiber. So, slow twist muscle fibers are those who are having the major portion of the slow twist muscle fiber. Their satellite cell number of satellite cells is 5 to 6 times more than that of those who are having the greater amount of type 2 muscle fibers due to the increase in the blood and capillary supply. Now, how it is work? How satellite cell works? This is the major issue. I will discuss it. Now, muscle growth satellite cell activity. In satellite cell is present outside the muscle fiber in a dormant state. When any kind of trauma or any kind of inflammation takes place within the muscle fiber, then satellite cell is activated. Cell proliferate and differentiate. Cell migrate to the damaged site. Then cell fuse to the muscle fiber, damaged site muscle fiber, and donates nucleus to the muscle fiber. Nucleus send mRNA to ribosome. Ribosome initiate protein synthesis. Actin and myosin filament are constructed, and ribosome are use amino acid for this process. The process of regeneration of the muscle tissue takes place within 2 to 5 days. The duration within 2 to 5 days. That means when we are performing any kind of mechanical activity, any kind of high intensity activity, the arrangement in the sarcomere, actin and myosin are placed parallelly, and when there is a large amount of tension is developed and too much powerful contraction takes place, this arrangement is disturbed, And as a result of that, they are disarranged, and this is termed as trauma, microtrauma. When the protein content within the sarcomere, the actin and myosin are disarranged, and the microtrauma takes place, that time the satellite cell initiate. The satellite cell entered, proliferate first, and then they entered in the damaged side of the muscle fiber, and they give their daughter nucleus to the muscle fiber nucleus. And as a result of that, DNA transcription takes place, and mRNA or messenger RNA formed. And these mRNA translate ribosome to synthesis actin and myosin because they are damaged. And when this actin and myosin is synthesis, the amount of protein content within the myofibril is increased. That's why when satellite cell takes participate for for repairment of a muscle tissue, muscle hypertrophy result, and in that cases the protein content is increased. So in that type of hypertrophy, the actin and myosin is the content of actin and myosin will be increased, and as a result of that, you are able to perform more powerful muscle contraction as the protein content within your muscle fiber is much more. This is the concept of satellite cell proliferation, and now I am showing it here also. This is the satellite cell. In general way, it is a dormant stage. When there is any kind of trauma is appear, then they are proliferate, they are enter in the damaged side, then they are give their daughter nutrient to the nucleus to the muscle fiber, and actin and myosin are thicker and bigger, and muscles damage will be controlled, and muscle hypertrophy occurs. This is the general phenomena. Now, the second stage, mTOR activation. mTOR stands for mammalian target of rapamycin. It is a key molecule that regulates the growth of the cell in response to various stimuli. mTOR controls the growth and production or synthesis of protein in various types of cells, including muscle cells. And enlargement of muscle fiber, that means hypertrophy, relies upon the mTOR signaling. mTOR also regulates a process called autophagy. It breaks down the recycling old, faulty, and damaged cell components with the help of cytokines. It acts as a sensor in both internal and external environment of the cell and decide whether the conditions are right to switch on the production of protein. That means it is just like a sensor within the cell, and they detect whether it is the right appropriate time to produce the protein which is required for muscle to normal functioning. By integrating the various cell signals, mTOR monitors several conditions such as availability of amino acid, whatever amino acid we have taken through food, the essential amino acids especially, they are sensing that amino acid, then inflammation, growth factors, circulating levels of hormones. When these conditions are correct, all the conditions are appropriate, there is a abundance of available amino acid. mTOR activated various biochemical pathways that lead to protein production. The protein production will increase. How this is so? mTOR does not work in isolation. Rather, it joins up with other molecule to form multi-protein complex. There are two distinct complexes of which mTOR is a key component: mTOR C1, mTOR C2. And how they are working? Amino acid they are outside the cell, especially branched chain amino acid. Amino acids are the building blocks of the protein. The mTOR C1 complex is sensitive to the levels of the amino acid inside the cell, and particularly the essential amino acid like leucine. When levels rise, mTOR switch into the protein synthesis, and whatever amino acids are there outside the cell, LAT1 or large neural amino acid transporter 1 will act as a receptor of that amino acid within the cell. From amino acid outside cell, the LAT1 receptor takes the amino acid within the cell. So this is one aspect, and when the amount of amino acid is increased within the cell, then mTOR activated and form the proteins. Protein synthesis takes place. Then the growth factor and hormones, both insulin and the closely related molecules called insulin-like growth factor, which I have already discussed. Insulin hormone interaction, that is insulin and other molecule and formed a insulin-like growth factor 1 can activate the mTOR C1 and promote protein synthesis. When insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1 bind to their respective receptor, they triggered by signaling cascade known as AKT-mTOR pathway, where protein kinase B, but PKB, also known as AKT, is collectively named to set of three serine threonine specific protein kinase that plays a key role to multiply the cellular processes. So, mTOR activation takes place with the help of the protein kinase enzyme. So, protein kinase enzyme plays a major role for activation of the mTOR pathway, and this mTOR pathway is dependent upon amino acid, dependent upon the hormones, dependent upon the mechanical stress, and so on. Another hormone, that is testosterone, may also interact with these pathways to promote protein synthesis. For this reason, it's important to maintain healthy testosterone level to optimize muscle protein synthesis and to ensure your muscle development. So, for optimizing your strength component, the role of these hormones, especially insulin, insulin-like growth factor, testosterone, should be optimized. Then other two aspects is there, that is the mechanical load. Exploring your muscle to a mechanical load, that means lifting heavy weights, triggers several different biochemical signaling cascade in your muscle cells that leads to muscle protein synthesis. It increases the insulin-like growth factor 1 and mechanical growth factor MGF. In one of these pathways, study shows that mechanical stretch of skeletal muscle leads to generation of a molecule called phosphatic acid. Phosphatic acid is formed with the help of this mechanical growth factor and insulin-like growth factor 1. And these phosphatic acid activates the mTOR pathway or mTOR complex, leading to increase the synthesis of protein. So this is the importance of mechanical load. That's why when we are putting the high amount of mechanical load and we are tackling this load for a regular basis, we will able to increase the protein synthesis within the muscle and our muscle hypertrophy results. So that's why this is an important aspect. And the metabolic stress, which I have already discussed. When when we are performing any kind of resistive training with 4 to 5 sets with 6 to 12 repetition per set, more metabolic stress arises. Why this is so? This is due to the anaerobic glycolysis, where lactic acid is the metabolic product, or simultaneously we are performing the aerobic process also to some extent, and for that reason carbon dioxide and hydrogen will be there, and also creatine phosphate breaks down in the form of creatine and inorganic phosphate. So all this inorganic phosphate, water content, then lactic acid is much more, hydrogen is much more inside the cell, that is in the sarcoplasm, and they have a greater affinity of water, and the water content outside the cell, they are taking the water content inside the cell, and the cell is bigger and thicker. More anabolic hormones and other growth factor also operating over here, and muscle hypertrophy result. That's why metabolic stress plays a major role and important role for muscle hypertrophy. So these are the factors. Now let us summarize all these factors. Through nutrition, which I have already discussed, branch chain amino acids are there, and LACT1 transporter, they are accepting this amino acid within the cell. And protein kinase enzyme, they are taking this amino acid and activating the mTOR reporter. Clear? This is one aspect. Then metabolic stress. In case of metabolic stress, lactate, hydrogen ion, calcium, creatinine, all these things will increase. Growth factor and growth hormone and testosterone plays a major role for that, and androgen receptor receive them and within the cell. And PKB mTOR pathway again activated. And anabolic hormones are also there, that is growth hormone, insulin like growth factor, all these things are there, and insulin receptor receives these hormones and sent to the through PKB to mTOR pathway. And mechanical tension, loading, insulin like growth factor, mechanical growth factor, stretch, elongation, all these things, insulin receptor receive this and sent to the mTOR C1 repertoire pathway to activate and to synthesize protein for muscle hypertrophy. And then, if there is any kind of, when we are tackling with high intensity workload, there is muscle trauma results. And as a result of that, satellite cell proliferation takes place, and they are giving their daughter nucleus to the damaged side of the muscle cell, and with the help of this nucleus, DNA is transcripted to the RNA, and mRNA formed, and mRNA then translated to the ribosome to synthesis the actin and myosin. So with the help of these factors, muscle protein is synthesis, muscle size increases, and muscle hypertrophy results. Now, training variables of manipulation, how we are tackling the load, what are the area, what are the component by where we have to work when you are thinking for the hypertrophy. The exercise, what are the exercise we are going to select? Exercise selection is an important aspect, and based on that, exercise order, how we are placing one exercise after one other another one, the sequence of exercise, this is an important aspect. Then we have to set the volume, that means the number of set and number of repetition in each set, and the load you have to carry out. This is termed as volume is equal to set into repetition into load. Clear? And then intensity, that is speed of work done, percentage of one repetition maximum, what are the percentage you are tackling with. If you are able to perform 100% 100 kg weight, you are able to perform one bench press with 100 kg weight, that means your 100% is 100 kg. Now you have to perform exercise with 70 kg, that means 70% intensity of 1 RM. This is the main concept. Then tempo, that means speed of work done, how fast you are moving. For there are two types of concept is also there, that is concentric and eccentric. When you are performing concentric type exercise, go as far as possible explosively, but when you are performing eccentric type exercise, it is much more slower, not so much explosive, slower and moderate speed. This is the main consequence where when we are thinking for hypertrophy. Then what are the rest period is there, intraset, interset, or post set. This is the important aspect. Actually, we can increase the load, we can increase the stimulus, training stimulus, by manipulating the intensity, by manipulating the volume, by manipulating the load, by manipulating the repetitions, or by manipulating the density. Density means rest of work interval between the two consecutive set. If the rest period is optimum, that means you are in full rest, the load will be normalized. If the rest is incomplete, that means load will much more. We can easily able to manipulate load by decreasing the density also, and this is termed as density, rest intervals, and the frequency number of training session in a week. Frequency, when we are thinking for the hypertrophy, and which I have already discussed earlier, it will take 2 to 5 days for total recovery, total damage control. So when you are thinking for hypertrophy, it is prescribed to do work for 2 to 3 days in a week. That means rest period will be much more than that of the training period. This is the general consequence. Now, resistive exercise induced muscle hypertrophy in the macroscopic level, radial fascicle growth and longitude. Two types of hypertrophy there, serial in series and in longitudinal way. And this is depend upon the angle of pull when you are performing any kind of resistance exercise. In the macroscopic level, radial fascicle growth and longitudinal growth, both type of is possible. And radial fascicle growth is possible, radial myofibrillar growth, myofibrillar splitting. In some cases, longitudinal splitting is there, that is trauma. And then myofibrillar hyperplasia, this is not so very common. And for longitudinal growth in the microscopic level, only longitudinal fiber growth is possible. And in the ultrastructural level, in case of longitudinal fascial growth, this myofibrillar lengthening is the result. And myofibrillar hyperplasia, this is also a questionable aspect. Then myofibrillar hypertrophy, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Two types of hypertrophies are operating out there. Myofibrillar hypertrophy, that means increase the protein content within the muscle. And sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, here protein content is not so much important. Here the sarcoplasmic volume is an important aspect. Those who are performing the bodybuilding type of activities, they are switched on to this sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Their sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is the main issue for them. Those who are performing the strength type of power performance, their myofibral hypertrophy is the main issue for them. So it is also again dependent upon your sports specific demand. What type of sports activity you are going to participate, your hypertrophy, your training will be accordingly, so that your physiological system, your body will support to promote a high level of performance in that particular type of sports. This is a major issue nowadays. Now, I am showing some light on this idea also when we are thinking for hypertrophy and strength development. Uh, Hahnemann size principle and recruitment of type 2 fiber. Actually, when we are performing any kind of physical activity vigorously, we are recruiting the motor unit as well. And the number of motor unit, when the recruitment of number of motor unit will be more strength will be developed, more contraction will be result, more better performance will be the result. And recruit the type 2 muscle fibers, because we are thinking for the hypertrophy. Hahnemann size principle state that motor unit will be recruited in order of size from the smallest to the largest depending on the intensity. First of all, the small motor unit, then the larger motor unit. Recruitment process of increasing the number of active motor units depend units to produce increasing levels of muscle contraction. Then how you are going to recruit the motor unit? First, when you are performing any kind of activity, action short head is there in type 1 muscle fiber. So when you are performing any kind of activity, type 1 motor fiber, type 1 motor which is shorter in length, they are participate first. And after that, type 2 muscle fiber taken to participate. So first type 1, then type 2. The action head is shorter in case of type 1, and the action head is longer in case of type 2. This is the neural mechanism. And what to do? We have to switch on from type 1 to type 2 in a quick manner, so that a larger amount of muscle, larger length of muscle is contract, and we will get enough amount of force at the initial level. Now, how we are able to do that? There are good number of factors as well. Train into fatigue. First concept. As we compete more and more repetition in a set, we are closer to come to the point of failure. We are gradually fatigue our small type 1 motor units. So small type 1 motor unit are fatigued when you are performing, when the duration of activity is much more. As a result, our larger type 2 muscle fibers are actually forced to begin activation, as the exhaustion type 1 motor unit cannot go on. This method, however, is least effective way to become a more explosive, stronger athlete. This is not at all working in a 100% way, but this is the concept. When you are performing any kind of activity, go for a larger amount of repetition, so that the type 1 muscle fiber are exhausted, and type 2 muscle fiber participate for giving out the enough force. This is an aspect. Then lift heavy. Try to lift heavy weight. Why? Training with progressively heavier and heavier weight not only increase the muscle mass, improving the lifting technique, increase the neural output, and potentially shifted muscle composition from toward type 2 motor unit. It is shifted the muscle composition. Brain also learn to unlock and recruit more in a bigger type 2 motor unit to lift that weight. When you are performing or try to lift a bigger amount of weight, brain is sending the signal to recruit the type 2 motor unit to perform the task, because the weight is too much heavy, and type 1 type muscle fiber are not being able to tackle that load. Effectively enhancing ability to activate and more through the Hahnemann size principle repeatedly. This is a repeated, you have to participate all these things in a repeated manner. Then two more aspects is also there, that is lift fast. The third way to increase your body's ability to harness the biggest and more explosive type 2 muscle unit is by being fast. So your movement must be as fast as necessary. Explosively you have to move. Explosive activity enhance the rate at which your body is able to recruit these bigger and more explosive type 2 motor units. When you are performing any activity explosively, so far as resistance training is concerned, your nerve is sending information to recruit the type 2 muscle fiber. Otherwise, you are not being able to perform to tackle that load. So this is the concept also. The train with intent to move. Train to move effectively merges the benefits of heavy lifting and fast movement, giving us benefit from both exercise modes and enhancing your training adaptation. The nervous system requires for movement velocity detects a lot of general nervous system changes, including the improvement of recruitment of large motor units, largest motor units. What are the activities we have to do for that? We have to go for the plyometric exercises. What is this? Plyometric exercises are exercises that involve exerting maximum strength in a shortest amount of time, and also known as jump training. When you are performing plyometric training, then you are going to recruit a motor type 2 motor unit to perform that particular type of task. So type 2 motor unit requirement, then requirement of large amount proportion of muscle fiber motor unit, and you have to perform that particular type of activity. Requirement of whenever requirement of recruitment of motor unit is 100%, that means you are giving 100% effort. Your muscle is trained to give the 100% effort, and the percentage requirement of motor unit is again depend upon the training. Otherwise, you are not being able to include all your motor units available to a particular group of muscle to perform particular task. Now, training factors affecting hyper. What are the training factors? Volume is the training factor. Then muscle failure, intensity, the rate of work done, the speed of work done, range of motion, then the frequency, number of work done, muscle action, rest period, and tempo. That means how fast you are moving. This is all these things are working over there. These are the factors by which you hypertrophy. You can increase the hypertrophy within your muscle or the muscle of your athlete. Now, training for hypertrophy. First one, you have to three basic concept. What are the training for hypertrophy? What are the training principles? What are the training methods are there? First, on the training principles, progressive overload method. That means when you are giving some sort of load to a relatively longer period of time, this load may not be an overload for that particular person. So you have to increase the load periodically. There should be a relationship between volume of load and the time. There should be a linear relationship between volume of load over time. Then only you are able to promote this progressive overload. Then repetition range. What should be the optimal repetition range in order to get a particular type of hypertrophy? Then what are the exercises we have to do? So depending upon these three factors, we are able to promote a desired hypertrophy and desired changes of the muscle of our athlete. Then how we are going to increase the overload? Progressive overload, we can increase the progressive overload in three ways. First, when we are going to increase the repetition in between each set, then the load is increased. Suppose there are three sets with 10 repetition and you are tackling the 10 kg load. That means your volume will be 3 into 10 into 50, 1500. If you increase the repetition up to 12 repetition in a set, that means your volume will be 15 into 12 into 3, 1800. So your volume is increased. You are overload. You are putting some sort of overload to that particular person. You can again increase the overload when the repetition remains constant, same, set is also same, but load is increased. When you increase the load from 50 to 55 kg, your volume of work done will be also increased. If you increase the set without increasing the repetition or load, if you are increasing the set, your volume of work done will be increased to a greater extent. You can see here, if you increase one set more, that means 4 set with 10 repetition with 50 kg load, your volume will be 2000. So it is an important aspect how we are going to increase this load. This is the progress. Now I am going to show the percentage change. In case of if you are increasing the 2 repetition in the first example, 17% load increases. Then if you are increase the load from 50 kg to 55 kg, 9% increase. If you are increase the set, that means 25% load increases. This is the way by which we can increase the load. Now, what are the training aspect? What are the training aspect? There are 4 training aspects I'm going to highlight. First one is the complex training set. It involves performing 2 exercises back to back with a brief rest period in between. That means first exercise is a strength exercise using a heavy weight for 4 to 6 repetition. Ideally, fatigue by the first final repetition. Final repetition will be a fatigue state. So you are tackling a heavy load with for strength exercise. In the second stage, is a power training focusing on the explosive movement for 5 to 8 repetition. That means there should be 30 to 15-second rest interval between strength and power exercises, and at 90 to 20 second or 2 minute rest interval after both exercises. Clear? So you are divided your exercise in two head. First one, you are going for the strength type activity performance, strength type exercise performance for 1 to 4 repetition. Then put some sort of rest interval 30 to 40 seconds. Then you can again go for the explosive type activity for that particular group of muscle. That means one difference is there in strength. What is the difference between strength and power? The movement will be explosive in case of power. This is the main aspect. And after the completion of the total set, you will give a 2 minute, 92 second to 2 minute rest interval. Then again, you can go for the second set. So this is a complex set training. And you can also go for the pyramid training. That means start with 12 repetitions with one set. Then go for 10 repetition with two set. Then go for 8 repetition in three set. Go for 4 repetition, 6 to 8 repetition for 4 set. First one is light, second one is moderate, third one is heavy, and fourth one is very heavy. So in this order, you can put your training session. So this is a pyramid training. It is just like pyramid. Sets are gradually decreasing and repetitions are gradually increasing. Then superset training. What is superset training? A superset is the performance of two exercises targeting different parts of the body so as to avoid excessive fatigue on a particular muscle group. Though it can also refer to two exercises that target opposing muscle group instead. That means here most important thing is the recovery. You are giving two exercise for two different muscle group without recovery. That means you are performing some sort of upright row in the first figure, 20 repetition. Then you can go for the squat for 20 repetition. Two different types of muscle group are engaged over here, but in between there is no rest. After that, you can give the rest and you can start the next set. This is the main concept. Rest interval is absent for performing two different type of exercise simultaneously. Then cluster training is also an important aspect in this area. What is cluster training? Intra-set rest, that is the passive rest time period between set. Inter-set rest. Intra-set rest, passive rest time period clusters of repetition within a set, and inter-repetition set. The passive rest time period between each repetition. These are the three concepts. We have to learn it. What are the traditional method of strength training? Suppose we are giving 3 set with 4 repetition. That means you have to perform 4 complete repetition in a set, and then we will give you the rest interval. Then again you have to perform these 4 repetition in the second set. Then again we will give you the rest. Then in the third set you will again perform the 4 repetitions. So 4 repetitions are performing in 3 different stages where repetitions are applied in between each set. This is actually the traditional set training. In case of cluster, what happened? We are again preparing some sort of cluster. These in the first step, 4 repetitions are there. We are divided into 2 into 2, 2 plus 2. So first set comprises of 2 cluster. First cluster comprises of 2 repetition. Second cluster comprises of 2 repetition. So you have to perform this in the first set. You have to perform 2 repetition completely. Then some sort of incorporation is given. Rest 30 seconds. Then again you are performing these 2 repetition. That in the second cluster, that is you are completing our first test. In this way, you have to perform these 3 sets. And between each set, we are giving 2-minute rest. That means complete rest. What is the importance of this cluster training? The importance of cluster training is that you are dealing the load to a greater extent, because these rest 30 seconds is also included in your training regime. Here incomplete rest is given, and you are totally able to tackle the total repetition with your full effort. That is an important aspect, and with this you are able to promote a greater amount of strength, or your muscle is contracted to a larger proportion, so that you are getting enough strength to tackle this load. So this is the main important aspect of this cluster training. Now, what will be the intensity? 8 to 12 repetition maximum, though we realize this could be a higher. 5 set per muscle group. That means if there is any 8 repetition and the 5 set, that means 40 repetitions will be there. 2 times or 3 times per week, I am taking the lesser amount. 2 times per week means 80 repetition in a week. 4 to 12 weeks, depending on the training status, how many weeks you are going to give the training. Then intensity 60 to 80% of 1 RM. Short rest interval, that means 60 seconds between each set, elicit greater metabolic stress in contrast to the higher load, which appears to be a potent stimulus for indulging muscle hypertrophy. Muscle hypertrophy is best achieved with moderate rest set between such as 30 to 90 seconds. Moderate rest, that is incomplete rest. So larger amount of metabolic stress will be there in your sarcoplasm. And what are the nature of movement? Tempo, which I have already discussed. Tempo, speed of movement. What will be that? In case of concentric type, when the muscle is contract, it will be the concentric type exercise. The concentric type movement must be explosive in nature. But in case of eccentric, when the muscle is lengthened, that means it is eccentric type activity. It will be controlled but fast, within your control, not explosive in nature. This is the main consequence of the hypertrophy. Then for strength, 1 to 5. When if we are thinking for development of strength only, then muscle hypertrophy may not be an important aspect, because we require 1 to 5 repetition range. Repetition range will be high, but volume, or you can say the load, will be much more. You are tackling a larger amount of load. Intensity is higher, 95% to 99%. You are tackling 99 to 95%. That means 2 to 3 repetition may be possible. Then complete rest, 2 to 3 minute rest interval. Then train for the particular muscle group. This is the concept for development of only strength. Because in that cases, when you are tackling a high intensity workout, in that cases, neuromuscular function is developed. So neural adaptation is an important aspect for that reason. For development of strength, best you have to select 1 to 6 repetition. This is best for the development of strength. But when you are thinking for hypertrophy, then it will be something different. Then the repetition range must be 6 to 12 repetition range. Repetition range must be high. When you are there, should be a relationship. There is a relationship between intensity and the you can say intensity and volume. There is a relationship. When the intensity will be high, load will be low. That means when there will be 8 to 12 repetition, that means intensity, you are performing a more amount of work done. In that cases, the intensity must be lower in nature. That means 60 to 80% intensity. You are not being able to perform any 12 repetition with your 95% intensity. You have to reduce your intensity when you are going to increase the repetition. There is an inverse relationship is there. So for muscle hypertrophy, go for 8 to 12 repetition with 60 to 80% of intensity. You will get the better result for hypertrophy, because both type of factors are working over there. That is, metabolic stress is also required. Without the long duration activity, you are not being able to create a good amount of metabolic stress within the muscle, and your process of hypertrophy may be hampered. So you have to selective. You have to very selective which kind of physiological response we are want to get from our athlete. Depending upon that, we have to design our plan so that his sport specific demand will be fulfilled and he or she is able to perform in a better way in the international sports in a sporting arena. If we are thinking for increase the mitochondria or sarcoplasmic component within the muscle in a larger amount, capillary density, then require blood flow is required. If we are want to tackle the load for a relatively prolonged period of time, that time the number of mitochondria should be increased so that we are able to sensitize the aerobic metabolism. For that reason, the repetition will be 15 plus repetition. You have to deal with 50 to 70% of intensity with 15 plus repetition, best for endurance performance. So repetition and intensity, these are inversely proportional, and based our training demand, we have to uh, design our training plan. We are go for the strength component. We are go for either we are go for strength component, or we are go for the hypertrophy component, or based for endurance component. All these things are matters in case of sports and games. Now, if there is 1 to 5 repetition, increase the neuromuscular efficiency. That is required for the powerlifting. If you want to go for the 6 to 8 repetition, my fibular hypertrophy, the strength component is again also an important aspect. Then, if you go for the 9 to 15 repetition, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that means mitochondrial or sarcoplasmic volume is increased, mitochondrial content is increased. We are able to promote greater amount of energy through aerobic metabolism. So these are the aspects by which we are able to promote or design our plan so far as sports training is concerned. So with this, may I conclude today's discussion. If there is any question, you can either put up on the chat box, or you can send through this mail ID also. Thank you very much. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to present over here. Thanks all the fraternity members of international global professionals. Thanks a lot. Hello, madam. Hello. Hello.
Rudy বেলার শেষ বই মাত্র। হ্যালো ম্যাডাম,
এখন আমি হচ্ছে বাংলাদেশ মার্চের 22
Thank you so much, sir, for your rich content presentation, which can impact our knowledge seeker surely. After your presentation, I hope our knowledge seeker can learn something new, which was our only intention. Learn and grow together, IGP knowledge seeker. Once again, thank you so much, dear sir, for your presentation. Now, sir, it's time for our question answer session, which is the one more valuable part of our regular webinar. Honorable sir, please stay with us. After a short video, we will be back in our session part 2, which is the question answer part. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much. Thank you. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After So our first question is from the YouTube. What is the most important factor in beginning about muscle hypertrophy? Thank you in advance.
Actually, there is a no single factor. There is a combination of factors. First of all, you need required pathway. The hormonal response is also uh, should present in an adequate amount. Otherwise, any kind of hypertrophy may not be possible. So these are the areas by which, and muscle trauma is the result of tackling the high load. So all these things are a combination factor. It is a not single phenomena. It is a combined effect. Muscle hypertrophy is a result of a combined Hello, may I audible? Hello, hello, may I audible?
Yes, sir.
I have
You're
given,
audible.
I have given the answer, madam.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Hello, sir.
yes, yes.
So our next question is from Flami. Blessed everyone. Good day, sir. Should we train for strength or hypertrophy or endurance? Is endurance or strength better for muscle growth? Thank you.
Endurance. Actually, you have this kind of what you what type of activity you are performing. When the inner source is getting the inner source from the aerobic system, then go for the hello, may I audible? So depending about your nature of demand, you have to go select your design your training plan. If you are required the strength component plays a predominant role, then you can go for the strength type of hypertrophy. That means the actomyosin concept is much more higher. Then you can go for the resistive side high intensity activity with the 6 to 8 repetitions in a particular set. And if you are required for a long duration, prolonged type of activity, that means aerobic processes are playing a predominant role, then you can go for the, your requirement will be the larger or higher amount of mitochondrial content within the sarcoplasm, then you can go for the long duration activity. So this is the two entirely different concept. And other concept is that those who are performing this bodybuilding type of activity, they can go for this sarcoplasmic activity. That means the volume of the sarcoplasm is much more higher than that of the actomyosin counterpart. So So depending on your nature, select your or design your training plan accordingly. But in general, in each and every sporting activity, endurance, strength, speed, all these component is required. In some cases, the endurance component is much more required. Requirement of endurance is much more. In some cases, requirement of strength component is much more. So, depending upon that, you have to design your plan accordingly. Madam, hello, madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. Our next question is from Amrit. Sir, what age
Hello,
can
madam.
we start for muscles
Is there any question?
hypertrophy for the children?
Madam, I am not getting you. You are not audible.
Sir, our next
Madam, I am
question
not
is
getting you. You
from
are not
Amrit.
audible.
Sir, what age can we start for muscles?
What is the question?
Sir, can you hear me?
It is also related with general growth and development. So after adolescent period, you can go for the vigorous training program, or you can go for moderate combat. So age category sports are also there, and strength training component is required for that. So depending upon the growth and keeping the point in mind of growth and development, you can design your plan accordingly. For hypertrophy content, you can go some sort of hypertrophy type of exercise. So for better strength tech performance, you can go uh, you can design the plan for adolescents, children also. But for bigger perspective, you can go after adolescent. It is a better for their growth, normal growth and development. It may not be hampered their growth or development process. Rather, it promotes their growth and development. You can go after teenage. You can go for hypertrophy. Hello, hello, madam. Is there any question?
Thank you so much. Next one is from Isha. Kindly certify the difference between hypertrophy and strength.
Actually, hypertrophy is the enlargement of muscle mass or volume of the muscle, and strength is the contractile property of the muscle. Those who are bodybuilders, they have a good amount of muscle mass, but their strength component is not so good than that of strength type or power type sports person counterpart. That means when I go for the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, that means when the sarcoplasmic volume is high, muscle mass is very bigger, but this does not indicate that your actin and myosin content are much more. When the actin and myosin content are much more, when the protein content within the muscle are much more, your contractile property of the muscle will increase, and your strength component will be increased accordingly. So hypertrophy and for strength, and or hypertrophy for you can say bodybuilding type of part is something different, and hypertrophy for endurance also something different. Hypertrophy for endurance, their mitochondrial level within the sarcoplasm is much more. Hypertrophy for bodybuilding, their sarcoplasmic volume is much more, fluid content within the sarcoplasm is much more. Hypertrophy for the strength type performer, their actin and myosin content is much more, the protein content is much more. So this is the main issue, and depending upon the nature of activity, which kind of sports you are going to perform, you have to design the plan which kind of hypertrophy is your requirement. So you have to very selective what type of sports you are performing and what type of active hypertrophy or component you require, and you have to design your plan accordingly. If you are going for endurance type of activity, if you are a endurance type of activity performer, that means your requirement is much more mitochondria within the sarcoplasm. And if you are performing the strength type activity or sprinting type activity, that time you requirement of this actomyosin or actinomyosin protein content within the myofibril will increase. So there are two types in general sense, that is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is best for bodybuilders and for the endurance runner, but there also are two types where mitochondria is much more content is much more in the sarcoplasm for the endurance performer, where the fluid of the sarcoplasm is much more in case of the bodybuilding bodybuilders. But those who are performing strength type activity performance, that is functional hypertrophy, their actin and myosin protein content within the muscle is much more higher. So depending upon that, you have to be very selective. So I hope you can able to understand what is the difference between strength and hypertrophy. In case of maximum strength, neuromuscular coordination is an important aspect. So that's why you are performing high intensity, high exercise. That is 95 to 99% intensity with 2 to 3 repetition, which I have already mentioned. And if you are going for thinking for the hypertrophy, you can go for the 6 to 8 repetition with 60 to 75% of intensity. And your requirement is strength or your requirement is endurance or both is your requirement. Strength is required for sprinting purpose also. So that is an important issue. Hope you can understand what is the strength, endurance, hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is between strength and endurance. First one is the maximum strength, then hypertrophy, then endurance. These are the continuum. Next question, madam.
Once again, thank you so much, Honorable Sir, for your time in IGP. We have learned a lot from you with new topics. It will add some value to our day-to-day activity along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable Sir, hope to see you again with a new topic and a new day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Thanks a lot, madam. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for patience hearing. Some sort of internal internet issues are there. That's why the program is not interrupted a little bit.
Yes, it's time for our witness certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular. After witness certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Dear RGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for our webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Today our webinar topic is importance of muscle hypertrophy for better sporting outcomes, and today our webinar code is IGP 6336. IGP 6336. Without code, no one is eligible for certificate. With code, anyone can claim your certificate. How to claim any certificate? Go to www.eduigp.com, click sign in, log in, or create a new account if you are new. Once login, click new free webinar, select the webinar title and click continue course, get enrolled if you haven't enrolled yet. Type the code in your certificate code box, click get your certificate. It is auto downloaded in PDF file already. Just check it in your file manager or download folder. Don't forget to leave a review in our FB page, website, and in Google. Dear IGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for the most engaging part of our regular webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is our regular webinar activity. Now, time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Now, time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Go to www.slido.com, find today's quiz or scan this QR code for direct joining. Quiz code is morning. After a short video, we will start our quiz session and don't forget to mention your friend to join our quiz session right now. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is morning. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is morning. Please join the Slido with the code and the code is morning. Dear participant, please join in Slido with the code and the code is morning. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is morning. With 36 people, we are going to start our quiz session right now. Our first question of morning session is, what is the name of the drug therapy used for erectile dysfunction that relax smooth muscles? Option 1, phosphodiesterase. Option 2, there is no drug therapy for erectile dysfunction. Option 1. Phosphodiesterase is right answer. 74% people are right here. In the leaderboard, collagen is holding the first position. Our second question is, which position should a client be in our transist? Option 1. Sitting while learning forward over the bedside table. Option 2. Running.
একটাই হ্যাঁ একটাই
Option
আচ্ছা
1.
আচ্ছা এক
Sitting
সেকেন্ড
while learning forward over the bedside table is the right answer. 82% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Corazon is holding the first position. Our third question is, the normal lab value for 8 GB is option 1. 10 to 20 GDL, option 2. 12 to 18 GDL. Option 2. 12 to 18 GDL is the right answer. 44% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Corazon is holding the first position. Our fourth question is, which of these is not a risk factor for workers? Option 1. Repeat the same motion performs many ADLS. Option 2. Performs many ADLs is right answer. 55% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Missile is holding the first position. Our fifth question is, when observing muscle tone, what are we comparing? Option 1. Lines. Option 2. Synaptic movement. Option 1 Lions, right answer. 32% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Missile is holding the first position. Our sixth question is, diagnostic testing for a UTI includes all of the following aspects. Option 1 Urinalized testing for liquid stress and nitrous. Option 2 Ultrasound. Option 2 ultrasound is the right answer. 87% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Missile is holding the first position. Seventh question is, Saptam Spiceman allows Saptam to be tested for culture and sensitivity. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Option 1 true is the right answer. 66% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Gima is holding the first position. Our eighth question is, all of the follow are stressed for assigning occupational performance except option 1 manual muscle testing, option 2 3-minute jump rope test. Option 2 3-minute jump rope test is right answer. 50% people are right here. In the leaderboard, child is holding the first position. Our ninth question is, which of the following is not precaution for passive stressing? Option 1 edema control, option 2 mobilizing unprotected joints. Option 1 edema control is the right answer. 68% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Missile is holding the first position. Our last and final question of this session is which of the following is structure of the lungs and responsible for gas exchange? Option 1, Nesporanza. Option 1, every oil. Option 2, Alival is the right answer. 52% people are right here. Congratulations to our online quiz competition winner top 10. Congratulations again. Slide will take a few minutes for finalizing the result, and after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificate on our official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Preparation. Congratulations to our online quiz competition winner top 10. Congratulations again. Slide will take a few minutes for finalizing the result, and after that we will issue our online quiz competence certificate on our official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Preparation. Congratulations to our online quiz competition winner. Congratulations again. Slide will take a few minutes for finalizing the result, and after that we will issue our online quiz competence certificate on our official Facebook page and group Institute of Global Preparation. At the end of our session, we can say properly feed your skill, never stop learning, cause life never stop teaching us. Be happy and stay safe. See you again and again. We want your participation in every program. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things. Albert Einstein. Before I say or hit the end live button, again wants to thank all IGP knowledge seekers for your active participation as always. See you again in the next session. Thank you.